everyone. So today in math, we're doing 1.5 and it's called renaming numbers. Our essential question is, how can we rename a whole number? So you guys say numbers all the time, right? We know how to name a number. Like the number here is 96. We could also call it 96 ones, right? Because essentially the last place is in the ones place. Let's look at this number, 720. That's its name, right? But could we rename it something else? The answer is yes, we could. We could even call this 72 tens. You're probably thinking, Miss Eve, you're crazy. How is 72 the same as 720? Well, it's not 72, it's 72 tens. So if you counted by tens 72 times, you would count all the way to 720. So we can call that number a different name. And notice that I can call it 72 tens, and the little hint there is that the last digit of 72 is it ends in the tens place. So before you see the zeros, that place, that very last digit before you see zeros, that's how you can name it. You could call this 72, and then whatever place it's in is the 10. So that's kind of how this works. So in this one, like 5,100, I could call it 51. So that's the digits before zeros, right? 51 hundreds. Why hundreds? Because that last digit falls in the hundreds place. And this one, 50,000, I could rename it as 50 thousands. Why? Because it ends again in the 10,000s place. So I could even call this 5 10,000s, but if I were renaming it thousands, that's kind of how it works. So let's take a look if I want the mouse back. Wanted to represent renaming numbers in a model with our base 10 blocks. So the directions say you can regroup numbers to rename them. So thinking of like, I could think of thousands as hundreds. I could think of hundreds as tens. You can regroup them. So to model that with base 10 blocks, we can use large cubes and flats. And we're going to try to model the number 1,200 by drawing a quick picture. So this is my first time trying annotating. I'm going to try this out with using the draw feature. So let's see if this works. So I want to draw the number 1,200 base 10 blocks, and it's going to help me renaming. So, oh, cool. I'm going to draw my 1,000 cube, if you guys remember from lesson 1. Remember that big, huge cube? I'm not going to draw that whole thing, but I'll call this my 1,000 cube. So that represents the 1,000. And how could I represent 200? Do you guys remember the model for that? We called it a flat. So that was just the square that was equal to 100. So I need to draw 2 of those. So this is my picture model of 1,200. The model shows 1 large cube and 2 flats. So another name for 1,200 would be 1,000. What happened to my pen? I want that back. 1,200s. So this is another name we could call 1,200. That number, you could also say it's 1,200s. So it's almost kind of like word form, right? But it does have a couple numbers. It's really just without the zeros. All right, so use only flats to model 1,200. So if I were to break up this 1,000 cube, this is the regrouping. I'm going to regroup the 1,000 cube into hundreds. So how many hundreds are in 1,000? Do you guys remember? It's always base 10, right? So 10 tens make 1,000. So it'd be 1, 2, sorry, my squares are not very pretty. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I just regrouped the 1,000 into hundreds. 10 hundreds equal 1,000, right? So now I need to also put 2 more because it said use flats to model the 1,200. So here's my 1,000, and I'm going to draw 2 more for the 200. So this is showing 1,200, but as only hundreds, right? So this model is showing how many flats, and that's going to tell us how many hundreds are in 1,200. So let's count. Here we made 10, right? Plus 2 more. 10 plus 2 equals 12. So the model shows 12 flats, so that means another name for 1,200 would be 12 hundreds. So you could call this number 1,200, or you could call it 12 hundreds. I want to go back to my notes. Oh, you can still see what I wrote on the other side. This is my first time using this annotate thing, which is kind of cool. I think I can clear it though. Clear all drawings. There we go. So that's just what we did. Okay. So here's using place value. So we can use models to rename numbers, or we can use a place value chart. So this is probably the quicker, easier way than drawing pictures. So in this place value chart, we have the number 500,000. What are some other names I could call 500,000? I could look at just the 5 in the 100,000s place and call this 500,000s. I could look at the first 2 digits and call it 50 10,000s, because I'm looking at the last digit of that grouping and calling it by that name and then what place it's in. So if I'm looking at the first 3 digits, that's 500 in the thousands place, so that's 500 thousands. If I'm looking at all of these digits, so 5 with these 3 zeros, that's 5,000 hundreds. So remember, it's in the last, where the last digit falls, it's in the hundreds place. And then if I looked at this grouping of digits, that's 50,000 tens. And then last but not least, 500,000 ones. So those are all the different names that you could name 500,000. Pretty crazy, huh? All right, so it says write 32 hundreds on the place value chart below. What is 32 hundreds written in standard form? So here they want us to write 32. So let me get my pen again. Draw. So we're going to write 32 hundreds in this place value chart. So if it's hundreds, that means that last digit, 2, needs to land in the hundreds place. So to do that, I'm going to put the 3 here and the 2 here. And then what do you think I should put for the tens and ones? If you're thinking 0, you're correct. So this is how I would put 32 hundreds in a place value chart. And its standard form would be essentially the same thing, 3,200. Clear that. And there we go. So 32 hundreds is the same as 3,200. So why don't you give it a try? You can pause the video and you can solve these problems. I want you to rename 130 into how many tens would that equal? 1,400 is equal to how many hundreds? So again, you're regrouping that 1,000 and adding the 400s. And then rename 150,000 into how many thousands? All right, you should have paused the video to solve those. And let's see if you got them right. So I underlined the digit for you to kind of help you where it stops. So this is the tens place. So 130 equals how many tens? When I count by tens, how many would it take in order to get the number 130? Hopefully you're realizing that if the 3 is in the tens place, then I would read that whole number 13 as my 10. So this is 13 tens. 1,400s for how many hundreds? Well, we know that there's 10 hundreds in 1,000, right? So essentially it's 10 plus 4, which is 14. And then we have 150,000. and I underlined the digit to stop, that's the thousands place. So you'd read this whole number, 150 thousands. So it should look like that. 13 tens, 14 hundreds, that's what it looks like in standard form, and 150 thousands. All right, so now what you're going to do is go into Think Central. You're going to complete your assignment for 1.5, renaming numbers. You can also complete the attached exit slip in Google Classroom. And if you want some extra practice, if you're a full remote student, you can go into your workbook and complete pages 33 through 34 for some extra practice.